There are 330 deaths reported each year on public lands in the United States. There are over 1,100 missing person reports tied to national parks since 2018. That's what they say, but those are just the numbers on paper. The real numbers are unknown. He knew that better than anyone. Every few months he made the trip. He never called it hunting, not even in his own mind. He called it feeding the itch. He would pack the car, the tent, some food, a cooler. He would drive until the trees swallowed the horizon. Out here, nobody asked questions. Out here, nobody cared who came back. He'd done this half a dozen times before. Never the same park twice. Always careful, always clean. The right season, early spring or late fall. Not too many tourists, but not too few either. Just enough to blend in without drawing attention. This time it was late summer. The leaves had not yet begun to change. 3 days ago he saw her, coming down from a ridge with a steady stride. Not a tourist, not the kind who stopped every few feet with a camera. She was experienced, the pack low on her hips, her breathing even, strong, healthy, solitary, perfect prey. He followed her each day, never close, always careful. He watched her set up camp. Small fires, hot and fast, efficient. She didn't linger. She didn't wander. She moved with purpose, like she belonged out here. And he liked that. It made her a challenge. On the fourth day, he decided it was time. He slipped off the trail, circling through the brush until he was ahead of her. He crouched in the shadows, the knife in his hand steady, breathing calm. When she passed, he rose, a blade in the dark, a hand over the mouth. He sank the blade into her abdomen, clean, efficient. She gasped, twisted. Her knees buckled. Her body fell into the dirt. It should have been over. It always was. But the moment his hand left her mouth, he knew something was wrong. Her skin was cold. Not cooling, already cold, like stone pulled from a riverbed. He pressed her wrist. No pulse. But her eyes were open, wide, watching him. A sound rose in her throat. Not a death rattle, not air escaping. Deliberate. A low, rattling breath that deepened into something steady, controlled. She sat up, not staggered, not gasping. She sat up with calm, like she'd only been pretending. His knife trembled. 6 people before her, and every one of them had died the same way. Shock, panic, silence. But none of them had smiled through the blood. She smiled. The forest fell silent. The birds, the insects, gone. He stood frozen as she brushed dirt from her clothes. Unhurried, graceful. Her head tilted, studying him, the way he had studied her. And when her lips parted, he saw her teeth. Too sharp, too long. Her smile spread wider. His nerve broke. He turned and ran. Branches clawed at his arms. Roots caught his boots. He didn't care. He just needed distance. But the footsteps followed. Light, steady, tireless. Not pursuit, inevitable. He reached camp before nightfall. The fire was cold. The woods were silent. He didn't sleep. Every snap of a twig, every rustle of the canvas, made him jolt awake. By dawn, he was gone. They never found his body, just his camp, the tent torn open, the supplies scattered. His name added to the list of disappearances, just another statistic. But the true figures, the hunters who vanish, the predators who never come back, those numbers aren't in any report. Those numbers are unknown. I wasn't supposed to see the file. It wasn't logged in our system. No chain of custody, no initials, no transfer sheet. Just a manila envelope left on my desk with no postage and no return address. The tab read, Forensic Pathology, Restricted. Inside was a report, if you could call it that. It read like an autopsy, but stranger, colder. The subject wasn't listed by name, only as Homo sapiens neanderthalensis atavus. At first I thought it was a joke, some grad student's mock-up, but the further I read, the less funny it became. The vital signs alone gave me chills. Body temperature, 95.6 degrees Fahrenheit, constant, cold to the touch, even when alive. Heart rate, 42 beats per minute, resting, almost comatose. Spiked to 180 immediately after feeding. Respiration, shallow, slow, described as torpid. The description was clinical, detached, but between the lines I could feel the unease of the examiner. Someone had written in the margin in shaky pen, not human baseline, closer to hibernation. The next pages contained photographs, grainy, black and white. The body looked human enough, but wrong in subtle ways. Skin pale, almost translucent, veins visible like blue ropes under the surface. Eyes, large, dark, pupils dilated wide even under harsh overhead lights. Teeth. The canines were elongated, not cartoonishly so, but enough to look predatory, the kind of teeth that could shear through skin and muscle. There was a note about the hands and nails. The nail beds thickened, almost claw-like, the kind of hands you could imagine wrapping around a throat. The deeper I went into the report, the worse it got. The heart muscle was denser than human averages. The arteries narrow and constricted, blood flow pulled inward. The liver was oversized, packed with stored iron. The stomach enzymes were tuned to process blood and raw organ tissue more efficiently than cooked food. And then came the detail I can't forget. Traces of anticoagulant proteins were found in the saliva. That's why their victims bled out so easily. That's why the wounds never clotted. Blood work revealed wild fluctuations. When fed, the hemoglobin was elevated to almost superhuman levels. When deprived, it collapsed into severe anemia. The genetic report was redacted, but enough remained to terrify me. It spoke of archaic alleles expressed at abnormal penetrance. Not mutations, not deformities. Something old, something ancient rising again through bloodlines. And in handwriting, barely legible at the bottom, they're not throwbacks, they're survivors. This wasn't just biology, there were witness statements. One orderly said the subject could smell blood from across the room. Another claimed the subject's presence alone made him freeze, like prey caught in the dark. One technician refused to continue observations after catching the subject watching him too intently. The report called it predatory fixation. Feeding behavior was the worst. The subject refused all normal food, meat, bread, vegetables, all rejected. But when given a container of fresh blood, it drank until the vessel was dry. Afterward, the pulse spiked, the skin flushed, the eyes sharpened. The subject smiled, red staining its teeth. The final section was a disaster. It was as though the examiner was trying to stay clinical, but couldn't hold it together anymore. Infrared imaging showed the subject's body temperature was consistently 2 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit lower than humans. Post-mortem examination suggested delayed decay. Time of death estimates could be wrong by as much as 12 hours. Wounds healed at accelerated rates. Small incisions closed before suturing. One margin note read simply, "The cadaver isn't rotting, it's waiting." There was no signature, no initials, only a final page, blank except for a single line typed dead center. "Do not release to public archives." But there was one more thing. On the back cover, in handwriting so faint I almost missed it, someone had scrawled, "We thought they died out 40,000 years ago. We were wrong." The Persistence of Predation in Human Myth. Unpublished paper of Dr. Adrian Marcos. Abstract. This paper examines the recurring presence of blood-drinking figures across the mythologies and histories of humankind. From the Sumerians to the Aztecs, from Greece to China, the same themes return. Predators who feed upon the living, and rituals designed to keep them at bay. Conventional scholarship explains them away as metaphors for plague, for famine, for fear of the dark. But the remarkable consistency of these accounts across time and culture suggests something more. Perhaps these stories were never symbolic at all. Perhaps they were reports. Introduction. Archaeology is the science of fragments. A shard of pottery, a half-erased tablet, a burial site disturbed. Alone, they whisper. Together, they speak. And when we assemble the fragments of vampire lore across the world, what emerges is not allegory, but evidence. Evidence of an ancient predator. The Sumerians. In Mesopotamia, over 5,000 years ago, they spoke of the Utuku, spirits said to drink the veins of men. To banish them, iron was heated red hot and pressed to the mouths of corpses, cauterizing their hunger. Why such remedies, unless the fear was of something more than a ghost, something physical? Greece. The Greeks told of the Empusa. Aristophanes mocked her on the stage, yet the details remain. A night visitor, shifting in form, feeding upon the blood and liver of her victims. Comedy disguises older fears, but the pattern is the same. Rome. On the Roman frontier, soldiers were stricken with sudden weakness. Villages abandoned fertile fields. Night-long bonfires lit the darkness. Chroniclers blamed disease, yet the symptoms, pallor, anemia, dread of the night, echo Mesopotamia and Greece. China. In the southern chronicles of China, the Jiangshi, the hopping corpse, feeds upon qi, yet livestock left behind were drained of blood. Different philosophy, same predator. Medieval Europe. During the Black Death, countless corpses filled mass graves, but some were treated differently. In Venice, skulls have been found with bricks forced into their mouths. In Prague, bodies were pinned to the earth with iron stakes. These were not measures against infection. They were measures against consumption. The Americas. Among the Aztecs, the heart was offered in sacrifice. Mixtec codices depict deities with sharp teeth, drinking streams of crimson. Anthropologists see fertility symbols, but compared with the Old World, the picture sharpens. Humanity brought its predator with it when it crossed the land bridge into the New World. Discussion. Taken separately, these accounts might be dismissed as hysteria. Together, they describe the same pattern. A hunger for blood and vital essence. A fixation on the liver, the heart, the life-bearing organs. Nocturnal habits. countered only by fire, iron, or mutilation of the corpse. Coincidence cannot account for such precision. Hypothesis. What if these beings were never myth at all? What if they were remnants, atavistic kin, descended from an older branch of humanity? Neanderthals, Denisovans, or another lineage still unnamed. Perhaps their traits survive in fragments of DNA, expressed rarely, but enough to be remembered. Pale skin, resistance to age, and unholy thirst. Folklore may be less invention than testimony. Conclusion. Across 5,000 years, the vampire returns again and again, not as metaphor, not as allegory, but as a figure so feared, so real, that humanity buried its warnings in every culture it touched. We call them myths. Our ancestors called them something else. They called them predators. Redacted memo. SAWD/TF-EV. Project Nightfold. Phase 3. Operational Exploitation. Results. Pattern B, 6 subjects. Pattern C, 2 subjects. Observation. Subjects demonstrate superior night acuity, enhanced intimidation effect during interrogation. Recommendation. Expand trials. Transfer anomalous printouts to Cryobank Delta. Signed, Deputy Director Marlowe. They told me not to talk about it. They made me sign a dozen non-disclosure agreements. They told me no one would believe me anyway. And maybe they were right. But I know some of you. You've seen the same things. Strange reports that vanish from archives. Autopsy notes with whole pages blacked out. Medical anomalies no textbook explains. And maybe, if you've ever worked in a morgue or in a pathology lab, you've seen one of the strips. Thin thermal paper, curling at the edges, faint smell of ozone and antiseptic, covered in lines that don't look like barcodes. They don't look like anything you've ever seen. They cross and tangle like threads in a spider's web. That's the weave, mitro weave. And it's not just a test. It's a census. I worked for them once. The Strategic Anomalous Warfare Directorate, SAWD. You've never heard of it. You weren't supposed to. Another acronym in a sea of meaningless agencies buried under black budgets and shell corporations. On paper, they were part of counter-biohazard defense. In practice, they were something else entirely. They used words like rare pathology research, emergency containment, but all of that was camouflage. What they were really doing was hunting for something. The carriers, the Atavus. I didn't even know that word at the time. They just said, individuals with anomalous mitochondrial expression. They said it clinically, like they were talking about a lab rat. But then I saw it with my own eyes. It was leagues beyond anything I could have imagined. Mitroweave isn't like a normal blood test. It doesn't give you numbers, no neat readout on a screen, no percentages. Instead, it prints a strip, a woven lattice of interference lines. To anyone else, it looks like nonsense, a bad fax, a corrupted barcode. But inside SAWD, we all knew what the patterns meant. Pattern A, clean, nothing detected. Pattern B, dormant carriers. You'll probably live your life never knowing, but the potential is there. Pattern C, active expression. The ones with the cravings, the cold bodies, the eyes that reflect light like an animal's. And then there's Pattern R, the resonance event. They didn't like to talk about those. Those went straight to the Stygian archive. I saw one once. The lines didn't look static. They appeared to move, writhing like something alive trapped in the paper. It was probably just a trick of the light, the way the thermal paper reacted to that specific printed pattern, but it stayed with me. The technician told me not to stare at it too long, said it could do things to your head. They didn't say what things, but now I suspect it was a warning about becoming too curious, about becoming obsessed. Here's what most people don't know. They're not just testing, they're recruiting. They run microweave on every special operations candidate, every covert asset, sometimes even contractors, without their knowledge. Most are clean. A few light up pattern B, and once in a while, pattern C. Those ones don't go home. The families get a folded flag, a closed coffin, a story about a helicopter crash or a training accident. But in reality, those soldiers are still out there. They're being trained, conditioned, weaponized. Their anomalous mitochondrial expression is honed to a razor edge. The program's code name is Nightfold, and I saw it with my own eyes. They dropped one of the Pattern C carriers into a cave system during a trial exercise. No gear, no NVGs, no light, just him. 40 minutes later, he walked back out with 3 prisoners in tow, dragging limp behind him. None of them had so much as fired a shot. The subject's mouth was wet with blood, his breathing steady. His eyes shined faintly in the dark. They applauded him. I didn't. I couldn't. I resigned the next day. Before I left, I smuggled out one of the strips, folded it inside my shoe under the insole. By the time I pulled it out, the printer ink had already started fading, but the weave was still there, dense, tangled, alive. In the corner margin, I wrote, Pattern C, Subject EV019. I don't know what happened to him. They never let us keep names, just subject codes. EV019, EV020, EV021. But I know this much. They're keeping them. Cryobank Delta, that's what they called it. A facility buried deep under a private contractor lab. No public records, no oversight, just endless rows of cryotubes, each one labeled with nothing but a number. I wasn't the only one who noticed. Online, I found others. Doctors, medics, morgue techs. They'd seen the same strips. Some said their supervisors dismissed them as instrument noise. Others were told never to mention it again. One posted a photo. The caption said, Pattern R, Active Resonance. The next day, his account was deleted. 2 days later, his obituary was in the local paper. Car accident. I can't sleep anymore. I hear the hum of the machines when I close my eyes. I see the weave in every shadow, in the fabric of my curtains, in the veins on my hands. Sometimes I think, maybe I'm one of them. I never let them test me. But what if the marker is there? What if my strip would come out dirty? What if that's why they're watching me now? Am I a carrier, or do I just know too much? Last night, I heard the vans outside. No markings, no plates, just engines idling in the dark. I watched from my window as men in black coats stepped out. They didn't knock. They just stood there, waiting. I burned the strip, or at least I thought I did. But this morning, slid under the front door. There it was, intact. The weave sharper than ever. I think they want me to know that they know. They want me to know why they're watching me. But if it's because I know too much, why torture me like this? Unless the strip under the door wasn't the one I burned at all. What if... No. It can't be. If this is my last message, remember this. Microweave isn't just detection. It isn't just research. It's a registry. So if you ever see the weave, if you ever hold one of those strips in your hand, don't stare too long. Don't let it into your head. Don't become obsessed with what it means. And above all, don't let them know you have it, because the moment you do, they'll be at your door, either to kill you or to collect you. Dr. Adrian Marcos, born 1969, archaeologist and lecturer in comparative mythology at the University of Vienna. His research focused on funerary practices in Eastern Europe, particularly ritual mutilations of corpses and their ties to myth. Though respected, his peers often accused him of over-interpretation, of finding patterns where none existed. He disappeared in 2019 while attending a conference in Bucharest. His body was never found. These notes were recovered from his personal effects. They were never meant for publication. Entry 1. Ursinari Dig, Bucharest, 2017. The graves here refuse to behave like graves. I have excavated burial sites from Anatolia to Crete, from Catalhoic to Knossos, but none have filled me with this particular unease. Several skeletons were interred with stones wedged into their mouths, others with ribs split apart by deliberate piercings. One poor soul had been decapitated, the skull laid carefully at his feet, and his chest cavity stuffed with ash. The textbooks dismiss these as superstitions of peasants, fear of the dead rising, pestilence mistaken for curse. But if this were mere superstition, why the consistency? Why the meticulous repetition of the same methods across centuries? It is not superstition. It is procedure. Entry 3. Threads in the mythic tapestry. I find the same pattern over and over in places that never touched one another. Babylon, the Atuku, spirits of the improperly buried. They rose to drain vitality. Ritual demanded burning the liver and heart. Mesoamerica, the Cihuateteo, pale women who prowled crossroads, stealing breath from travelers. China, the Jiangxi, corpses stiffened, animated, talismans nailed to their brows, iron nails driven through their hearts. Greece, the Lamia, monsters who drank the blood of children, their hearts destroyed in ritual fires. Slavic villages, the ritual mutilation of corpses, stakes, decapitation, burning, always the heart, always the liver. It is not enough to call this coincidence. These are not metaphors. They are repetitions of a memory, a mnemonic echo of something our ancestors fought again and again. Entry 5. Osteological anomalies. Krakow, last autumn. A skeleton with bone density far greater than expected, like a tool forged for endurance. One mandible preserved with elongated canines. Not accident, not filed, but genetic. The assays returned inconsistent dates. The same femur produced two wildly different ages. The technician joked. The bone refused to die. Porphyrin imbalances in the samples, the kind that make skin sensitive to light. Too consistent, too ancient to be dismissed as pathology. Entry 8. Hominid parallels. Neanderthal survival traits. Enlarged ocular cavities adapted for low light. Dense musculature. Diet, almost entirely animal protein. Marrow, flesh, blood. Modern genetics confirm fragments of their DNA persist in us. Dormant, recessive, occasionally expressed. Entry 10. The organ motif. It was never just blood. The Babylonians burned liver and heart. The Greeks left offerings of liver to appease shades. The Aztecs believed the heart housed tonali, stolen by predators. The Chinese feared the Jiangxi consumed life force from viscera. Always the same organs, always the same fear. Blood was only the sip. Organs were the feast. Entry 13. Liminality. Crossroads. Doorways. Thresholds. The Cihuateteo haunted crossroads. The Slavic Noxerer scratched at doors. Babylonians placed bowls beneath thresholds. Europeans swore a vampire could not enter uninvited. Liminal spaces. The in-between. And that is where prey is most vulnerable. Leaving home. Crossing from day into night. From life into death. Entry 15. The Breakthrough. This is no archetype. Not coincidence, not myth. What we call vampires were once a rival species. The rituals, battle plans. The myths, case reports. The folklore, cultural trauma, encoded as memory. Our ancestors did not imagine predators in the night. They fought them. Entry 18. Modern cases. Forensic archives whisper of anomalies. Corpses with delayed decay. Autopsies revealing organs intact weeks after death. Living patients with body temperatures 2 degrees too low. One Romanian report, 2016. A suspect's saliva contained a protein that worked like a leech's secretion, an anticoagulant. The examiner's words, comparable to leech secretions. I read that line 3 times, and my hands would not stop shaking. Entry 21. Realization. The pieces cohere. Predators, atavistic Neanderthal traits, rituals, methods to neutralize them, myths, distorted memories, modern anomalies, proof they never vanished. They are not metaphor, they are population, thinned, hidden, but never gone. Entry 23. Final note. There is one more file. The subject is alive. Blood panels unreadable. Skin pale, body cold. If I continue, I will be forced to make contact. I do not know if I have the courage. If you are reading this, understand. They do not belong to the past. They belong to the blood, to thresholds, to us. And once you recognize their pattern, once you learn their names and rights, they recognize you. You're tuned in to Night Watch AM, the show that never sleeps. I'm Jack Lowry, holding down the mic for all you night owls, insomniacs, and secret keepers. Tonight's open line topic, the elites, human trafficking, and whatever the hell the chains are supposed to be. Line 4, you're live on Night Watch. Who am I talking to?
You can call me Ash. That's not my real name. If they trace us, I'm dead. You understand?
Sure thing, Ash. You're safe here. We don't trace, we just listen. What's on your mind tonight?
It's about them. The ones pulling the strings. The blood drinkers. People think it's just conspiracy stuff online, but it's not. They really do it. The trafficking, the disappearances, it's not just money or power. There's something biological behind it.
When you say not fully human, what do you mean? Shapeshifters? Lizard people? We've heard all kinds here.
No, not reptiles. They're people, mostly. But older, different. Something in them didn't evolve the same way we did. They drink blood to stay stable. It keeps their cells from breaking down. Ever notice how some of those billionaires never seem to age, never get sick? It's not money that keeps them alive. It's maintenance.
You're saying there's an organized system for this?
Yeah, it's structured. Chains of flesh, that's what they call it. People move around like livestock. Disappearances hidden under charity fronts, rehab centers, migration shelters. They drain people, not all at once, measured. Blood, organs, marrow, enough to keep the families alive.
And you've seen this?
I've seen the paperwork. I used to work maintenance at a biomedical storage facility out west. They kept saying it was for trauma research, but the shipments never matched the records. Some boxes went straight to private jets, sealed, refrigerated, no manifests. And one night, I saw the printouts. They called it microweave. Looked like spider webs under red light.
Mitro what?
Microweave. Some kind of genetic assay. They said it could identify carriers. Carriers of what, though? They wouldn't say. Just that they had to keep it quiet or it would upend human history.
Ash, I've got to stop you there. Could this just be, I don't know, a classified study? You sure it's not viral research or genetic mapping?
No, this isn't about medicine. It's about survival. They keep rooms cold, 35 degrees Fahrenheit, to stop the smell. They say it helps the blood stay alive. And the thing is, they don't do it for fun. They do it because if they stop, they start to die.
Ash, you're cutting out. Ash, you still there?
They're listening. They monitor frequencies like this. If you trace this call...
Well, that's a first. Guess the men in black didn't like what he was saying. Alright, open lines are still up. If you're out there, Ash, you can call back. You're listening to Night Watch AM. After the break, we'll be talking to a cryptozoologist about the chupacabra sightings down in Texas. Stay tuned. Darby Internal Document. Defense Applied Recombination Biology Division. File Classification. Level 4. Eidolon clearance required. Document ID. Darby/GEN-ATV-2020-22-3R. Title: Comparative Pattern Briefing. Microweave Classifications B, C, and R. Compiled by Dr. Silas Keller, Lead Biogenetic Analyst. Reviewed by Dr. Adrian Marcos, Advisory, Comparative Anthropology Unit. Date: July 12, 2020. Status: Confidential. Not for civilian release. Section 1. Summary. Following the successful deployment of the microweave assay Mark II, anomalous mitochondrial patterns identified in Atavus-positive tissue samples have been categorized into 3 primary expression types: Pattern B, Pattern C, and Pattern R. These represent distinct evolutionary strata of atavistic re-expression, correlating with behavioral and metabolic deviations consistent with pre-sapiens predatory inheritance. All recorded subjects displayed neurochemical and hematologic deviations outside human physiological tolerance when under metabolic stress, suggesting partial reactivation of dormant Neanderthal genomic systems. Section 2. Pattern B. Basal strain. Incidence: 2 to 4% of sampled global population. Weave signature: B loop. Single deviation band, low amplitude. Classification: dormant, subclinical. Summary. Pattern B represents the ancestral baseline of the Atavus inheritance, a silent, dormant form carried by an estimated 150 million individuals worldwide. Subjects exhibit mild hematotropic preference, UV sensitivity, and enhanced nocturnal alertness, but remain functionally human. Notes: Pattern B is humanity's sleeping wolf, mostly harmless unless you starve it. Dr. Keller, Osnabrück Report, 1999. Clinical cues: low basal temperature, average 95.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Elevated hematocrit, variable iron retention. Compulsive dietary heme preference. Circadian phase delay. Containment risk, low. Pattern B individuals can be monitored via standard biobank sequencing without public disclosure. Section 3. Pattern C. Convergent strain. Incidence. Around 0.5% of sampled population. Weave signature. C echo. Dual phase oscillation. Classification. Adaptive. Hybridized. Summary. Pattern C emerges when mitochondrial deviations, pattern B, interact with rare nuclear cofactor expression. This creates a hybridized metabolic loop bridging ancient predatory traits with modern human adaptation. Carriers exhibit advanced empathic mimicry and emotional camouflage behaviors, capable of socially integrating while displaying measurable physiological predation responses. Physiological observations. Oxygen conservation under hypoxic conditions. Anomalous ferritin cycling. Emotional dampening in limbic PET scans. Prolonged adrenal response to conflict stimuli. Behavioral correlates. Strategic manipulation, often in leadership or exploitative social roles. Resistance to trauma-linked empathy or remorse. Heightened sensory response to pheromonal and heme cues. Containment risk, moderate. Pattern C individuals are socially adaptive and difficult to identify without weave assay confirmation. Excerpt, internal review, Marcos. Pattern C is the cultural predator. Civilization has merely taught it to feed differently. Section 4. Pattern R. Recurrence strain. Incidence. Less than 0.05%. Documented global total. 34 confirmed. 119 suspected. Weave signature. R bloom. Red-black interference that appears to pulse. Tripartite loop. Classification. Reactivated. Ancestral. Summary. Pattern R constitutes the reactivation phase of the Atavus inheritance, a re-expression of pre-sapiens mitochondrial dominance. Subjects demonstrate heme-based energy metabolism, hypothermic stability, and profound neurophysiological alteration in moral and empathetic processing. Physiological observations. Core temperature 91 to 93 degrees Fahrenheit. Accelerated tissue regeneration under heme saturation. Extreme photophobia. Olfactory acuity for blood compounds below 3 parts per million. Documented intimidation field. Autonomic fear induction in proximity subjects. Behavioral correlates. Territorial fixation and social withdrawal. Ritualistic or patterned predation. Hypervigilance and dominance drive. Immune resistance to blood-borne pathogens. Containment risk. Severe. Pattern R individuals are metabolically divergent and capable of sustained survival outside standard human nutritional and environmental parameters. Recommended protocol. Surveillance and indirect neutralization only. Direct containment has resulted in multiple casualties. See incident file MKR-07-BLED. Excerpt. Keller, internal memo, redacted. Pattern R is not a mutation. It is memory, evolution's recall command. Section 5. Comparative overview. Pattern B is the most common, with a latent preference for heme from blood. They present with a B loop on microweave assay, and they tend to have colder than average skin temperatures. They can sometimes have a blunted emotional response. Think of them as sleepers, mostly human and mostly unaware, but the potential is there. Containment priority is minimal. Pattern C individuals are more rare than Pattern B and have a preference for blood and organ meat, but can survive on normal human diets. Microweave assay will reveal a C echo pattern. These individuals are capable of mimicking human empathy in the same way a sociopath can, and they are just as adept at manipulation. Their lack of empathy tends to make them highly efficient at the practical tasks of feeding and covering their tracks. Pattern C requires active surveillance in case they become higher profile in their behavior, that being active hunting of humans. Pattern R is extremely rare, even among carriers. They are fully heme-dependent for their nutrition and present with R bloom pattern on microweavisae. They are completely absent of empathy and don't bother to fake it. Displaying the more mythological traits of the vampire, such as photophobia, they are also capable of extreme feats of physical regeneration when dietary needs are met. They are truly inhuman predators and represent a critical risk that requires constant surveillance when discovered. Section 6. Recommendations. Continue longitudinal tracking of known pattern C subjects via Eidolon Index. Redact all pattern R confirmations under bioterrorism exemptions. Disseminate misinformation via online conspiracy culture, Rh negative, reptilian, elite bloodline narratives, to obfuscate true mitochondrial findings. Establish containment protocols at cold storage sites in low UV latitudes. Reference Directive 7.4, Heliotype Containment. Section 7, Addendum. Confidential note, Dr. Marcos. Handwritten. Scanned. July 13, 2020. We've mistaken evolution's silence for absence. Pattern B whispers. Pattern C negotiates. Pattern R remembers. End of document. Declassification review date, January 1, 2070. Document retention code 19-7F-Eidolon. Recovered audio, full transcript. Classification, DAR-BD intercept, clearance Omega-6, Atavus containment protocol. Source, intercepted unverified anonymous audio file. Recovered from Hidden Darknet Forum, Blood Merchant Archive. Terminated August 17, 2022. Internal reference. Subject H-73 Hail. I didn't start out a monster. I started as an intern. Back then, it was called the Longevity Initiative, a research foundation that partnered with select clients to trial anti-aging compounds. We were told it was a merger of biotech and philanthropy, billionaires funding breakthroughs in gene repair and blood rejuvenation to halt and reverse aging. It felt noble. Selection was competitive. Only people with the right education and connections made it through the first round. I won't go into my background, but let's just say nepotism and the right social network opened the door. Then came the quiet room interview. No windows, no clocks. The walls were padded, not just for soundproofing, but to erase the sense of time. It was sensory deprivation at room scale. They asked questions no employer would ask. Do you believe morality is an evolutionary phase? Would you serve a greater intelligence if it required obedience without understanding? How far would you go to preserve the world as it is? When I said, as far as necessary, they smiled. That's how they find you. People who will rationalize anything if it means they matter. Everyone wants to matter. They called me a handler. The word meant nothing at first. What I actually became was a pimp, a pusher, and a murderer. The first year was all data, scheduling clients, arranging travel, collecting medical samples. I didn't know what the samples were for. I thought they were analyzing stem cells or blood factors. That was certainly part of it, but it was like they were searching for something rather than just maintaining research stocks. Then one night I walked into Lab 4 after hours and found one of the clients floating in a tank. No, not floating, suspended. Tubes in every vein, blood cycling through filters. Her eyes were open, but she wasn't conscious. She mouthed something that looked like please, but no sound came out. A senior tech caught me. He just said, "That one's on retainer. Don't interrupt the transaction." That word stuck with me. Transaction. like she'd sold something and never got it back, or this was the price she had to pay. They trained us in discretion and relationship management. We were the bridge between the houses and their human assets, the links in the chain. My job was to identify appetites, politicians who feared aging, celebrities with secret addictions, scientists chasing forbidden results, people that craved what was unattainable to them despite all their influence and power. We didn't bribe them, we fed them. It started with making casual contact, and then, like a drug dealer, we would plant the seed of dependency. A sample of a breakthrough anti-aging treatment, the latest designer drugs, entry into fetish clubs of questionable legality. By the time we made contact with a potential asset, the surveillance was already complete. We knew exactly what to offer them to set the hook. We could procure anything, licit or illicit, if it meant bringing influential people into the fold. You've probably heard the rumors about elites and human trafficking. Billionaires on tropical islands doing all sorts of terrible things. It's mostly true, but it's so much worse than you think. One by one, they came to the table. Some thought it was a kink scene or a secret society. Others thought it was transhumanism. None of them realized that they were being consumed. I was assigned to House Varkas, though the word house doesn't really describe it. It's a bloodline, a corporate dynasty built around a shared genetic legacy. House Varkas is embedded deep in the biotech industry, behind every longevity patent and life extension study. They also pioneered the methods of social control that became the chains. Their matriarch was Evelyn Varkas. She looked 40. She was older than photography. Caucasian, average height, average build, brown hair and green eyes. She spoke like a surgeon, calm, efficient, and faintly amused. Her accent was impossible to place. We don't dominate through fear, Mr. Hale. Fear makes people run. Desire makes them kneel. That became my creed. My job was to keep the links tight, ensure no one broke the chain. I kept my assets happy as long as they were doing what was expected of them. Talking to the right politicians, spreading the right message on social media, writing the right scientific articles. When a client panicked, I was the one who soothed them. When a victim talked, I made them disappear. Sometimes that meant relocation, but usually not. It's easy to orchestrate an accident when you have access to Varkas infrastructure. Their shell corporations, their health trusts, their digital ghosts. They never told me to kill anyone directly, but they didn't have to. I knew what was expected. They just said, sever the link before it weakens the whole. Every removal of a problem came with a reward. A transfusion, a bonus, a promotion. After a while, the smell of antiseptic and iron became normal. I was preserving the chain. I was doing something that mattered. The change started around my 3rd year. I had been receiving transfusions semi-regularly as a reward for my service. At first I noticed my cuts healed faster. I stopped feeling cold. Then my pulse slowed to 50, then 40. Evelyn said it was the gift. I thought she meant it as flattery. I developed a craving for liver that progressed to a need to drink blood. Nothing else would satisfy this new hunger inside of me. The gift was not without its drawbacks, it seemed. The house provided for my new needs, and in return I submitted to procedures beyond transfusions. This was no longer a reward, and my refusal was not an option. Every month or so, I received a procedure utilizing a heavy-gauge needle to place something in my neck, at the base of my skull. These procedures were extremely painful, even with anesthesia. After the 3rd grafting procedure, something in me went cold. I stopped feeling guilt. I stopped feeling much of anything. Then came the dream. I was standing in a corridor lined with refrigeration units. Each one had a window, and behind the glass were faces, sleeping, pale, mouths slightly open. Tubes ran from them into the ceiling. I followed the lines upward and saw they joined into one massive conduit, pulsing slowly like a vein. At the end of the hall was a shape, human-sized but wrong, covered in cables like roots. It breathed once, twice, and whispered, "You're helping me remember what I am." When I woke up, it felt like someone had their hand around my throat. There was an ache at the base of my skull. I looked at my smartphone screen. I had been asleep for 2 days. After that, I started noticing details. Every handler had scars at the base of their skull. Every house member's appearance was slightly wrong. Glancing at them would cause your heart to race. The servers that stored our client files were called the Flesh Ledger, and their data backups were biological. Racks of fluid-filled drives, the bleeding edge of biocomputation. I confronted Evelyn. She didn't deny any of it. She said, "You're not an employee, Mr. Hale. You're a prototype." In 2019, there was an incident. A client tried to leak part of the Flesh Ledger to a journalist. They sent me to handle it. When I arrived, the journalist was already gone. The floor was wet with blood. The air smelled like copper and ozone. Evelyn was there. She was wiping blood from her mouth with a handkerchief while other handlers were ripping up the blood-stained carpet. She said, "He was too curious. You'll have to replace him." I don't remember what happened next. Only the sound, my own breathing, multiplied. A week later, I woke up in a hospital bed under a different name. My pulse was so shallow and my body temperature was so low that I had been pronounced dead. The curtains were drawn and the lights were off. The staff would be coming to take me to the morgue soon. I had no choice but to run. I was property of House Varkas, and they would send someone to retrieve me. I'm still running. I don't have much time left now. Even if they don't catch me, it's been too long without a transfusion, and my body is breaking down. For 3 years, I've been trying to tell someone, anyone, what's really feeding this world. They say we live in a system of consumption, that everything's a transaction. That's not a metaphor. It's anatomy. It's nature. The chains of flesh are real. They stretch through every government, every boardroom, every church. They don't control us with fear. They feed us our own hunger and call it freedom. They don't need to conquer the world. We gave it to them. I'm sending this to whoever still believes truth matters. But don't look for me. Don't look for them. They're not hiding. They're just too close to see. The chain doesn't only bind. It connects. It circulates. It's the lifeblood of the modern world as we know it. Transcript ends. Background noise increases. Rhythmic, like a ventilator, turning into breathing. Faint whisper. Addiction is faith. Before audio cuts to static. Defense Applied Recombination Biology Division, DARBD. Classified Dossier. Internal use only. Level 5 clearance required. File ID. DARBD Archive LNX BCR12. Title: Genomic Lineage Codex, Atavus Houses and Deviant Strains. Revision: October 19, 2023. Origin: Directorate of Genetic Continuity, Division of Atavistic Anthropology. Status: Active, Restricted. Note: This document supersedes pre-2022 lineage maps under Project Mindvane. Refer to Comparative Pattern Briefing, DARBD File BCR-00, July 12, 2020, for foundational data on microweave pattern differentiation, B Loop, C Echo, R Bloom. Addendum BCR-14 2025 revision, currently in draft. Do not distribute. Section 1. Executive Summary. Following the consolidation of recorded Atavus bloodlines under Project Mindvane and the MitroWeave mapping protocols, see Comparative Pattern Briefing, July 12, 2020, DARBD recognizes 4 extant houses and 1 aberrant classification as comprising the surviving Atavus lineage structure. These houses represent the organized remnants of the Atavus ascendancy, a subpopulation descending from Neanderthal progenitors exhibiting heritable hematophagic and neuroadaptive traits. The existence of these houses is officially denied under all public channels. All intelligence and biological material are restricted to DARBD and its authorized defense contractors. Section 2. Hierarchical Review. Tier 1. House Varkas. Genetic and Systemic Dominion. Active. Tier 2. House Varn. Enforcement and Military Control. Active. House Drathi. Historical and Doctrinal Preservation. Active. Tier 3. House Selene. Resonant/parapsychic Anomaly. Limited Presence. Aberrants. R-Type. Failed recombinant strains. Contained. Section 3. House Dossiers. House Varkas. Lineage Designation. B-12/C-15. Hybrid. The Dominion Axis. Doctrine. Purity commands power. Profile. House Varkas stands as the apex of Atavus evolution, an engineered aristocracy that marries biological mastery with systemic control. They are the architects of the MitroWeave Assay, the Progenitor Recovery Initiative, P-0, and the Modern Chains of Flesh system. Within Varkas exist 2 operational castes. Sanguinari, geneticists overseeing controlled breeding, cloning, and heme optimization. Executors, human-facing operatives managing influence networks through blackmail, human trafficking, and behavioral data manipulation. Early Varkas research under the 2020 Comparative Pattern Briefing directly informed the identification of the B-loop signature and remains the foundation for all current MitroWeave lineage mapping. Primary Domain. DARBD Front Laboratories, Biomedical Corporations, Global Finance, and Policy Infiltration. Insignia. Black and white double helix encircling a red threaded heart. House Varn. Lineage Designation. C-02, the Predatory Axis. Doctrine. Through the Hunt, Dominion. Profile. Once the keepers of Atavus secrecy, Varn have become the soldier caste of the New Order. Their bloodline expresses elevated strength, low metabolic variance, and heightened combat instinct. They now operate as enforcers under Varkas direction, providing physical containment, security enforcement, and targeted elimination of compromised elements. Primary Domain, Private Military Contractors, DARPA Off-Books Units, Containment Site Logistics. Insignia, Broken Spearhead within a circle of fangs. House Drathi, Lineage Designation, C-09, the Memory Axis. Doctrine, We Remember the Blood. Profile. Drathi are the archivists and theologians of the Atavus. They safeguard the oral traditions, recovered glyphs, and genomic manuscripts that chronicle the Pale Convergence, the divergence of Homo sapiens from their predatory progenitors, as well as the subsequent re-emergence of Atavus expression. They serve as ideological custodians, maintaining the continuity of Atavus identity through secrecy, ritual, and record. Primary domain: anthropological institutions, private collections, and the DARBD Cultural Anthropology Wing. Insignia: black wax seal upon a parchment white bone circle. House Selene. Lineage designation: C-21, the resonant axis. Doctrine: what you dream, we devour. Profile: officially considered extinct, Selene persists in a disorganized and fragmented form. They feed through psychic resonance, dreams, emotions, and subconscious energy. The mechanisms of this process and its biological correlates remain unverified. Their microweave data exhibits R-Bloom anomalies tied to neural discharges rather than somatic metabolism. DARBD cross-analysis suggests possible interference between Selene resonance patterns and P0 neural field recordings, indicating potential non-local correlation. Primary domain: parapsychological research units, cognitive laboratories, and the MK Dreams subproject archive. Insignia: silver crescent eclipsing an eye. Section 4. Non-house entities. The aberrants. Classification: R-type deviants. Status: contained. Profile: residual products of failed recombination and unsanctioned experimentation. Aberrants demonstrate severe heme instability, skeletal deformation, and neurodegenerative collapse. Used in regenerative serum testing and cloning matrix validation. No evidence of organized culture or hierarchy. Aberrants are regarded as non-viable byproducts of recombination error. Specimen R3 alpha remains under observation. Its mitochondrial signature exhibits a 99.98% correlation to P0, progenitor female. Containment level: red 4. Mortality rate: 78% within 72 hours of active metabolism. Section 5. Current strategic notes. House Varkas maintains de facto control over all known Atavus activity and continues to coordinate with DARBD via intermediaries in the Applied Genomics Division. House Varn assets embedded within international security frameworks continue to ensure compliance and secrecy enforcement. House Drathi remains neutral but essential to record integrity. Unauthorized destruction of Drathi archives constitutes a Class A breach. House Selene is listed as a potential non-local intelligence threat. Observation recommended. Engagement prohibited. Aberrant material to be destroyed upon loss of containment authorization. Document status: active, compartmentalized. Distribution: DARBD, StratInt, BioSci, GenNet. Authorization: redacted. End of file. Classified: DARBD internal. Project Borealis. Defense Applied Recombination Biology Division, DARBD. Initial Discovery Brief, Site Borealis. File ID, DARBD RB P0 2024-001. Clearance Level, Omega Red. Date, February 11th, 2024. Compiled by Dr. Silas Keller, Lead Biogeneticist. Reviewed by Dr. Adrian Marcos, Consultant, Pattern Analysis. Distribution: internal eyes only. Division Director, Section V, Cryogenics, Biohazard Command. Field Discovery Summary. On January 28, 2024, a civilian geophysical survey operating under the European Ice Core Initiative reported anomalous magnetic readings beneath the Jökulfjall subglacial ridge, northern Scandinavia. Coordinates redacted. Subsequent DAR-DB reconnaissance confirmed a non-metallic silhouette embedded approximately 47.2 meters below surface ice. Thermal core extraction indicated an estimated radiocarbon age between 38,000 and 42,000 years before present. Excavation yielded the following: specimen, humanoid morphology, female, height approximately 171 centimeters, estimated mass 58 kilograms, pre-freeze. Preservation, complete integument, intact vascular system, no visible desiccation or crystallization. Contextual anomaly, surrounding ice strata show no entrapped fauna, flora, or particulate debris, indicative of direct refreeze around isolated volume. Immediate response, DAR-BD containment team mobilized within 36 hours under Operation Borealis. Preliminary biological observations. Upon controlled thaw phase at Site 12V, cryogenic quarantine, tissue resilience exceeded all known glacial preservation baselines by factor of 13.7. Muscle fibers retained pliability. Mitochondrial membranes displayed measurable potential difference post-extraction. Note: mitochondria not dead, they are waiting. Handwritten marginalia, presumed by Dr. Marcos. No identifiable decomposition markers detected. Trace chemical assays revealed heme-derived compounds stable after 40,000 years. Microweave analysis, Trial A, performed February 3, 2024, returned pattern classification R', Bloom subtype, previously unrecorded in DAR-BD archives. Subreport excerpt, MT sequence 16,569 BP, deviations from Homo sapiens reference 0.82%, epigenetic marks consistent with active chromatin remodeling, cross-referential pattern match, none, R' unique. Site security and anomalous events. Following relocation, containment logs record temperature fluctuations uncorrelated with facility ambient systems. Internal sensor array detected intermittent biothermal pulses, approximately 0.9 degrees Celsius amplitude. Personnel on rotation reported low-frequency resonance within the cryochamber at 0300 to 0318 local time. Audio capture file, redacted, exhibits rhythmic cadence at 67 BPM, low amplitude, repeating for 47 seconds. Incident logged as anomalous event 1, under review by Biohazard Command. Project status. As of this report, specimen designated P0, progenitor hypothesis. All field personnel reassigned or debriefed. Specimen secured under cryogenic lock at Site 12V, Chamber C7. Access restricted to level Omega Red clearance and above. Dr. Marcos and Dr. Keller authorized to proceed with limited cellular extraction for non-destructive microweave imaging. Pending director authorization for Stage 2 recombinant trials. Proposed code name, Project Mother Seed. Attached images, redacted. X-ray composite, skeletal structure consistent with Neanderthal-Homo hybrid morphology. Cell scan bloom, observed spectral bloom pattern identical to R' signature. Containment C7, subject under 7 cm ice sheath, eyes partially open. Image sealed, level Omega. End of report. Distribution control. Unauthorized duplication constitutes violation of DAR-BD Regulation 77C. Project Borealis remains classified under Directive 4 Sanguis. Addendum, Marcos, handwritten. If this is her, the mitochondrial line is not extinct. We have only been sleeping beside our ancestor. Document status: active, do not reproduce. Signature block redacted. Classified: Darby D. Internal, Project Borealis. Defense Applied Recombination Biology Division, Darby D. Containment Log 7C, Anomalous Revival Events. File ID: Darby D. RB P0 2024 007C. Clearance Level: Omega Red. Date Range: 2024 February 14 to 2024 March 2nd. Primary Custodian: Dr. Silas Keller. Supervising Analyst: Dr. Adrian Marcos, Consultant. Location: Site 12V, Cryogenic Quarantine Chamber C7. Site 9 Annex under construction at this stage to receive long-term housing of P0. Summary: following controlled retemperature cycles, the P0 specimen displayed unanticipated metabolic activity inconsistent with glacial mummification or typical post-thaw degradation. All data herein are restricted to the Darby D Pattern Division and Cryogenics Command. Event Timeline: February 14, 1947. Chamber C7. Internal temperature spontaneously increases 4 degrees Celsius despite sealed coolant feed. Sensor diagnostic initiated. No fault found. February 15, 0302. Audible low-frequency pulse, approximately 66 beats per minute, recorded by environmental microphones. File attached, redacted. February 17, 0816. Microscopic vessel networks within dermal tissue begin to darken. Sample draw aborted due to motion artifact detected on monitor. February 19, 0 hour 22. Electrical activity detected along spinal nerve tract, less than 0.08 millivolts. Flicker waveform repeat every 47 seconds. February 20th, 0209. Specimen exhales trace vapor visible against infrared camera. Duration 0.6 seconds. Vitals monitors show null. Manual confirmation negative. February 24, 1400 hours. All lights in chamber C7 flicker. Containment AI registers uncommanded door seal cycle. Power grid stable. Event classified as correlated phenomenon. March 2nd, 0147. Resonant hum fills entire lower sector for approximately 52 seconds. Specimen's right hand shifts approximately 3 centimeters. Visual confirmation pending. Recording lost to system overwrite. Technical notes: biopotential readings. Mitochondrial membrane potential maintained stable at 146 millivolts. Cellular integrity. Membrane cohesion unchanged. Active ATP turnover detected, 0.02 moles per kilogram tissue. EEG equivalent scan shows patterned waveform resembling stage 1 sleep oscillation. Marcos annotation: not revival, remembrance. The cells are performing a memory of life. Incident reports. Incident number 12V7C-B. Technician Harrow R. reported sensation of being observed while alone in monitor room. Incident number 12V-7C-E. Electrostatic discharge from containment door arced 3 meters, burning floor tiling. Incident number 12V-7C-H. Researcher, surname redacted, found unresponsive in hallway. Core temperature 23.8 degrees Celsius. No external injury. Recovered after 14 minutes without neurological deficit. Darby D. medical assessment. Acute hypothermic vasovagal event. Internal review pending. Security directive. At 0300 on March 3rd, the division director ordered immediate transfer of Project Borealis to Level 5 containment. All non-essential personnel reassigned to Section V. Specimen P0 status: Active, restricted observation only. Physical interaction is prohibited, pending Ethics Board review. Personal note, appended, Dr. Keller. We have not revived her. We merely woke up in her presence. Every system here behaves as though it remembers something older than its code. Document status, active, redistribution forbidden. End of log 7C. Intercepted communication, priority level Omega Red, recovered by Strategic Anomalous Warfare Directorate, SAWD. Date of acquisition, March 6, 2024. Decryption log ID, SAWD-INT-BV-0347. Origin, unverified uplink, believed routed through House Varkas encrypted channel, codename Borealis Transit. Integrity, 87% recovered. Missing segments marked data loss. Transmission fragment 1. Timestamp, 0 hour, 0 minute, 12 seconds. They have drawn her from the ice at last. I felt it even before the message reached us, the old pulse returning beneath the earth. Darby D believes it is theirs to dissect, theirs to measure and name, but we know the lineage better than they ever will. She is P0 to them, a number. She is the mother beneath the ice to us. Transmission fragment 2. Timestamp, 0 hour, 0144. House Selene sends word that the resonance has reached their mirrors. Their seers speak of blood singing through glass. House Varkas demands immediate reclamation before the humans fracture the bloom. House Strathi counsels restraint. They fear awakening what time itself sought to bury. Internal council vote split 3-1, majority in favor of intervention. Codename Operation Hearthblood. Transmission fragment 3. Timestamp, 0 hour, 0229. The vessel lies within their cold chamber. They keep her dreaming in steel and frost. But the pulse spreads. Every carrier within the northern lines reports heightened hunger, agitation, dream recurrence. The young ones whisper in sleep. The ancient names return. Atavus Mater, Sanguis Ultima. Transmission fragment 4. Timestamp, 0 hour, 0350. We have secured an insider within Site 12V. Payment rendered in sequence red cells, 8 grams. Extraction route mapped through the melt tunnels. The specimen will be relocated to Vault 9 under the old city before the thaw completes. Data loss, 34 seconds. Transmission fragment 5. Timestamp, 0 hour, 0447. The bloodline will not be replicated by machines. No glass womb, no artificial mitosis shall bear her image. Let the mortals play at creation, their child will eat them in the cradle. Transmission fragment 6, timestamp, 0 hour, 0518. Remember this, the ice did not preserve her, it imprisoned her. To wake her without the old rites is to unseal the covenant we swore never to break. If they succeed, the world they inherit will not be human. If they fail, perhaps she forgives us. End of transmission. Note, file transmitted to Darby D Pattern Division under Joint Review Order 2024 B Delta. Status verified. Redacted for public release. Classified, Darby D Internal, Project Borealis. Defense Applied Recombination Biology Division, Darby D, Recombinant Trial Series, CL0 through CL5. File ID, Darby D RB P0 2024-024R. Clearance Level, Omega Red. Date Range, March 10th, 2024 through June 4th, 2024. Principal Investigators, Dr. Silas Keller, Dr. Adrian Marcos. Facility, Site 12V, later transfer to Site 9, Containment Annex. Classification, Experimental, Restricted Biological Recombinant. Objective, to determine whether the P0 specimen cellular material, pattern R', retains viable replicative potential under recombinant cloning conditions. Project codename Mother Seed. Methodology summary. Source tissue: 4 mg dermal biopsy taken prior to Borealis transfer. Somatic nucleus insertion into host oocyte, Homo sapiens, donor line 7Q-F. Induced division under microwave stabilized incubation at -8 degrees Celsius. Observation period 18 weeks cumulative. Series results. Trial CL0, complete failure, nuclear disintegration within 4 minutes, no thermal deviation. Trial CL1, partial zygotic structure, mitosis halted at 2-cell stage, weak R-bloom echo detected. Trial CL2, viable blastocyst, day 6, exhibiting spontaneous heat emission, +4 degrees Celsius, terminated per protocol. Trial CL3, rapid, uncontrolled cell differentiation, tissues liquefied, odor reported, sweet, metallic. Trial CL4, partial metabolic animation achieved, exhibited rhythmic pulsation every 0.9 seconds for 11 hours. Exposure to human heme sample triggered immediate cellular necrosis. Trial CL5, structural coherence 87%, stable 19 days before autolysis event, final tissue analysis pending, see Section 5. Observations. R' mitochondria exhibit non-binary division. Coherent replication wave observed. Attempted sequencing fails due to constant base pair drift. Data unreadable after 72 hours. CL4 generated a faint, subharmonic sound at 66 to 68 beats per minute, audible without instruments. During CL5 observation, several technicians reported shared visual hallucinations described as white eyes behind glass. Marcos marginalia. Replication refuses obedience. Each cell recalls a form older than the host. Termination report, CL5. At 02:13 on June 4, 2024, containment sensors recorded abrupt temperature increase within incubation chamber, 22 degrees Celsius in 11 seconds. Audio captured low resonance identical to P0 heartbeat signature. When chamber was opened, vessel found empty. Fluid within displayed birefringent crystalline structure. Sample cryopreserved under tag number C9R Bloom. DNA recovery unsuccessful. Strands denatured into fractal lattice form. DARBD action. All data sealed under Directive 4 Sanguis. Project Mother Seed terminated. Addendum, handwritten. Recovered from Dr. Marcos's desk, undated. She cannot be cloned because she never died. Each attempt is another heartbeat. The lab is becoming an organ. Document status, closed, classified Omega Red. End file for recombinant trial series. Final memorandum, Project Borealis termination. Defense Applied Recombination Biology Division, DARBD. File ID, DARBD RB P0 2025-051F. Classification, Omega Red. Terminated operations. Date, January 19th, 2025. Issued by Directorate Oversight Committee, Biohazard Command. Distribution, Director Keller, Pattern Division, SAWD Liaison, Section V Command. Executive Summary. Effective immediately, Project Borealis is designated terminated under Directive 4 Sanguis. All experimental and containment operations related to specimen P0, progenitor hypothesis, are hereby suspended. All data storage, materials, and personnel associated with Sites 12V and 9 Annex are under review for security violations and containment breaches. Incident reports 2024 December through 2025 January 7 indicate critical infrastructure failures, power blackouts, and the total loss of both facilities. Satellite imaging confirms a localized meltdown event consistent with controlled thermonuclear sterilization at Site 9 coordinates. Residual radiation negligible. Biological contamination unverifiable. Operational losses. Site 12V, cryogenic quarantine, decommissioned. Structural collapse following cryogenic system rupture. Site 9, Containment Annex, destroyed. Self-destruct sequence initiated at 0413 UTC. Specimen P0, missing. Containment chamber discovered empty, restraints intact. Dr. Adrian Marcos, unaccounted for, believed deceased, body not recovered. Dr. Silas Keller, transferred, assigned to DAR BD Special Directive Unit, location redacted. Recovered fragments of internal correspondence suggest possible third-party extraction prior to Site 9 destruction. See SAWD Intelligence Report 2024 R108 for further analysis, classified separate volume. Microwave data anomaly. Post-incident forensic analysis indicates that 73% of Borealis-related microwave data underwent spontaneous corruption at the moment of Site 9 failure. Remaining samples display a persistent spectral signature consistent with pattern R' bloom, propagating across secured DAR-BD intranet nodes despite air-gap isolation. Marcos, interpretive presumed poetic note. She is no longer in the ice, nor in the lab. She is in the data now, learning to divide through the wire. External intelligence. SAWD intercepts indicate renewed encrypted traffic between houses Varkas and Selene during the 48-hour window preceding Site 9 loss. Phrases recovered. Vault 9 is open again. The mother breathes in glass. DAR-BD assessment. Possible Atavus retrieval. Joint investigation pending. No conclusive evidence of external incursion. Termination statement. Project Borealis is formally dissolved. All materials related to P0, microwave derivatives, and recombinant pattern R' strains are to be sealed under Vault Directive Delta Zero Aeternum. Any future research into P-lineage mitochondrial subjects requires personal authorization of the Division Director and 2 Omega Red signatures. Visual record, redacted. Photo terminus 001.jpg, melted containment frame, Site 9. Video still.mp4, chamber window frost pattern forming vascular network configuration. Camera feed C9, empty stasis unit, residual condensation forming outline consistent with female morphology, upright posture. Final log annotation. Temperature dropped 12 degrees the moment the feed ended. Document status, closed, project terminated, end file 5, final memorandum.